Hello everybody, my name is Caretaker and I'm back in the raid with another episode of F5 Refresh. This is the episode in the series where you guys send in questions, ask me advice, and I answer them. So before I begin this, I'm going to do the whole intro stuff where I say if you'd like to submit a question or ask me advice, it can be anything. You can be asking for advice, you can be asking me a question or something, just anything works. I will be glad to help you out and do the best I can. So if you want to submit a question, there is a link, well, not really a link right here, but you can see on the screen. All you have to do is send an email to this email, caretakersghosts@yahoo.com, and I will reply to you when I put it in the episode. The day I do it, I'll send an email saying something like answered. I hope that helped you, and I'll keep it going that way. I've replied to a few people just to let you know that it's going up. Now, the way it works is if I get 3 to 4 questions, I will upload the episode immediately. Doesn't matter when. If I get 3 to 4 questions tomorrow, I'll upload another episode. But if I don't, I will be uploading this series every Friday. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the questions now. So the first one, hello Caretaker, you might remember me as the, by the way, before I read this, he said he doesn't mind his name being said, so I'm just going to read through it because it helps me just get it all out there, so. Hello Caretaker, you might remember me as the Undertaker from YouTube, who watches your videos all the time, and is Mike Burton from Facebook, as I post on your page. You can say my real name, I don't mind, but anyways, my question is, how do you get over the death of a loved one without being so depressed that you feel like you want to end it all? I dream about them all the time, and I feel like it's their way of trying to communicate with me in a way, and when I wake up and have to get back to reality, knowing that they are gone and never coming back, which hurts me so much because it makes me so depressed and sometimes I feel suicidal. You're distressed in life because of personal problems, and all I can think about is him because he always was there to help me. He was an uncle of mine who died from a stroke a few years ago. I used to come to his work and all the time and see his dogs who also passed away, and I used to come over to his place all the time with family and watch TV on the couch with him. And all I could say is I loved him very much, and I can never accept the fact that he is gone and never coming back. I know I don't know what happens after we die, but sometimes I wonder if he is trying to communicate with me in a way in my dreams, since I dream about him a lot and cry a lot in my sleep that I can hardly ever eat or sleep sometimes, or still having this problem to this day where I get so depressed and cry a lot over it. So I watch your videos to help release a little bit of that stress, which I still have trouble with. I don't know what to do, and maybe you can help me. I just want to know if he's alright, even in death or the afterlife. Sometimes I blame myself and feel like I wasn't there to visit him as much when he was alive. Sorry if this is long and I get a little teary-eyed here. I know you are not a therapist, but what should I do about this, Caretaker? Okay, so this is actually something I wanted to have a confession about on my own page, and I'll do that one later, but for me, death is odd. And by the way, if I have a sudden cut, it's because my cat's being super affectionate. I tried to distract him with catnip, but he's just being really weird today. And for me, death is really odd. I mean, if I see a cat die, even if it's a cat I've never seen in my life, I can't do dead cats. Or if you watch the other episode, you'll know why. At least I think I mentioned that. But anyone who watches my videos will know my cat story and why I have an affinity for cats. But if I were to see a random person die, granted, if I saw someone in trouble, I would try to help them, but if I saw a dead person, I don't think it would faze me as much as seeing an animal. So, I'm going to talk about, I'm trying to think of the best way to go over this when you talk about death, because I had a death in my own family, and it was my uncle who my dad compares me to a lot, and I had to watch my grandma and grandpa get the news from my dad that their son had died. So that was very awkward, just because I understand how much it can hurt. It hits home. So I'm going to talk about the stuff that I know for sure about, because like I said, death for me is a whole another ball game, but I'll try my best to answer that. And that is about dreams. Now, your dreams are your subconscious. It's something that you desire. It could be something you fear. It could be something you want. I just said that twice. It could be something you're aspiring to be. It could be something you saw that day. I mean, hell, I've had nightmares over stuff I've seen just in everyday normal stuff. I'll watch some kind of movie and that part of the plot line will be added to some weird horror twist line in my head, and it's really weird how that works. But generally, because you're dreaming so much about him, honestly, I'm an atheist. I don't think there is a life after death, and not that that's a bad thing. If you're religious or you feel that there is something after death, then by all means, don't let what I say persuade you or make you think otherwise. If you think there's a life after death, then I think you should embrace that. If you feel that this is his way of talking to you, then you should use that to boost yourself. You know, if he's in your dreams because he was such a big influence in your life and you want him back, you want him in your life, and in your subconscious, in your mind, knows that, so that's why it's pushing it to the forefront. It's why you think about him. It's why you dream about him. It's not so much, I know you said you feel, guilty. I don't think it's so much your mind saying like, oh, why didn't you visit more? Why didn't you do that? Because, I don't think you want to be sad. I think it's your mind trying to push him forward in your head because you want him back. You still want to visit him. You still want to talk to him. And in a way, your mind is giving you that. So while I don't believe in, any of that stuff, I do wish ghosts were real and all that stuff were real. I'm not going to lie. I think it'd be pretty cool. But anyway, it's not the point. I think in a way he is living after death. He lives on in you, and that's why when I die, I don't want people to mourn my death. I don't want people to be sad, because being sad, and don't take this the wrong way, but being sad isn't going to bring them back. All it's going to do is make you feel bad, and it's going to make other people feel bad, and you're going to get depressed, and it's going to bring you down. And that's why I tell people when I die, don't mourn me. Don't be, oh no, we've lost someone. Why did we lose such a good person or a bad person? I don't know what the fuck's going to happen in a couple years. I could turn out to be a supervillain, which would be kind of awesome. Hey, not the point. But I would rather have people celebrate my life. I think a funeral shouldn't be about, I understand it's saying goodbye to someone, but why can't saying goodbye to someone be a celebration of what they've done and what their life was? And in a way, you could do that too. So, you've told me you're very close to your uncle, and you loved his dogs, and you're always over there. From what it sounds like, you were with him a lot, especially if he's had this big of an impact on you. So the whole part of being guilty and saying that you felt you didn't visit enough, wipe that from your mind. That's obviously not true from what you've said, and unfortunately we lose people. People will leave us, but they always leave behind their memories and all the good times we had with them and what we've done with them and what they've done in their life and the legacy they leave behind. So while he is gone, he's also not gone at the same time, because you're never going to forget those good memories. You're never going to forget his dogs. And I know it's very difficult to do this, but instead of thinking of it in a bad sense, like, oh, he's gone, oh, his dogs are gone, think of when he was here. This was so much fun. When he was here, this made me so happy. And who's to say you can't do those things because he's not here anymore? If you played a game together, find someone else to play the game with. Share that experience with someone else. Take what he gave you and all this happiness and joy that he gave you while he was here and carry that on. Carry it forward. Show it to someone else. Make someone else feel the same joy you did. And I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming probably a teenager, early adult. Yeah, like I said, just do your best to share what he did. And remember all the good times you had. And it's kind of what I do when I deal with a breakup too. I used to wallow in my own self-pity. I used to beat myself up constantly for all the mistakes I made in the past. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, why am I going to worry about this? If I had a good time, I had a good time. And if it ended, it ended. And dwelling on it and thinking about it only made me miserable, even when I had the good memories, because all I could think about was that they weren't there anymore. So all my good memories became tainted with this idea that they weren't there, so they went from amazing memories to bad memories. And that's not a good thing, because I think that's why you're sad, is because you have all these amazing memories, but at the same time, it's like you won't have more. But just because you can't have more with him doesn't mean you can't make more good memories. And I'm sure your uncle, if he could talk to you, and in a way I think he is in your head, because as weird as it sounds, and I do this myself, but when I meet people, I pick up on their mannerisms. I get into their head, I can see how they think, and I kind of build this mainframe of who they are, and it helps me build conversation pieces when I'm not talking to them. I talk to myself. I do. It's not like schizophrenic, like I have 13 people in my head talking to me, I don't have Larry Curly Moe doing sketches up in there talking to me. I just talk to myself. I enact what I'm going to say. I act it out, and I'm like, oh, well, this is going to happen. Then I pretend what they're going to say to me, because it helps me build confidence for a conversation. So whenever you see him in your dreams, I don't know if you're lucid dreaming or not, but try to interact with them. Remember what you did. Use those as a positive boost and not a negative one. And I assure you, I hope that helps and that you can move on from this, because I'm not saying, before anybody thinks this, I'm not saying forget him. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm sure your uncle wouldn't want you to be sad. And I'm sure if he could be here, he'd tell you that too. He would tell you to make more memories. You have plenty of time in your life. And while I've been rambling on this a lot, and I apologize, but this is kind of a big thing, you know, because a death is it's a big deal. I'm not going to lie. It's a big deal. Even for me, even though it doesn't hit me as hard, I do understand the severity of death. It's a big thing. But it comes up to something I was talking to my girlfriend about, because she's, you know, she worries about death a lot. And I can see why. I've had a lot of friends who are like, what happens when I'm gone? Who will care about me? What matters then if I'm gone? And, you know, no one's going to care about me, and then I'm just gone. And it's like this idea of being deleted, but that's not true, because everyone you talk to, everyone who you interact with, every time you do something with someone, you're sharing. When they say you're sharing your life, or they're sharing your life story, in a sense, you are sharing your life. They are carrying it on inside them. Like, they're not gone because they're with you. It's kind of one of the reasons why I really like the holiday of Day of the Dead, you know, because I love the idea of it. They go and they honor the dead. It's a day to remember the dead, to say that even though you're gone, you still live on with us. And I think that's just a really cool idea. You know, maybe that'll help. Go check out Day of the Dead. It's a wonderful holiday tradition, and it's just a really cool idea. And I like the idea of remembering the dead, of remembering them, remembering their lives, and just saying, hey, we remember you. So I just think that's a really cool idea. So anyway, I hope that helped. I'm sorry I rambled like crazy. I apologize, but that's how I'm going to do these, by the way, if anybody is curious. I tend to kind of bounce around to points as I get to them, so I apologize if that bothers anyone, but I'm trying my best. I hope that helped you. So I'm going to move on to the next question. We are getting a lot about suicide. Wow. Not a good thing that I'm knowledgeable about this subject, but alright, so the second question is, I have suffered with depression all my life. Between the death of my birth family, living most of my life in an orphanage with my sister, the death of a best friend of 17 years, and that my sister and I are suicidal, we want to tell our current family, but we don't know how. I would also like to tell them that I'm a lesbian. I know that my father's side of the family wouldn't care. In fact, my father would be jumping with joy, but I also know that my mother's side of the family is homophobic. Can you please help us on how to tell our current family? Any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Alright, so first of all, I'm very sorry to hear that. I have met a few people who have lost their family members and have gone through the orphanage system, and I know that can be rough. I can't say I know how it is from personal experience, but from what I've heard, it's a very mixed bag. So, I hope that, you know, life, aside from all the bad, is good. I know you say you're suicidal, but I know that sometimes, even though you're depressed, you do have good things in your life. So, the first thing I'm going to focus on is how to come out to your family about being a lesbian, because that seems like the big one here. Now, there's a few things you can do, and I'm pretty sure I've said this to someone before, but the way I would put it is, you know that your father's side will be more accepting of you, and you know that your mother's side isn't exactly pleasant around people who are gay, and I don't understand why people are like that. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think it's just older fashioned people just can't accept it, or it's religious reasons. But anyway, do you and your mother and father live together? Like, is this all one big family region, or are they divorced? Or I'm just curious to know this, because if your father and your mother are together, what I would recommend, like the best case scenario that I would go with personally, would be sit your father down and explain to him, like, hey, Dad, I need to speak to you about something. I like women. I'm a lesbian. I need to get this out. I want you to know this. And then from there, have your conversation with your dad, open up, explain if you're dating someone, let him help you out, because you said your dad would be jumping for joy. And that's great that your dad is so open and willing to talk, and, he cares about you like that. As you say, he's jumping for joy. So I have no idea why. I guess he's very LGBT friendly, which is awesome. But I would definitely use your dad to help you springboard. Let your dad maybe start the conversation, or if you want to start the conversation, have your dad back you up. So what you want to do is tell your dad, go through the conversation, have him, get that all off your chest. And maybe while you're doing the whole chat about, being a lesbian, you want to add up, be like, I need to talk to you about a few things. Bring that up. Or you can, swap it around, start with, hey, I'm suicidal, I'm depressed, I'm having a lot of issues coping with the deaths in my family and everyone else, and it's really been hitting us hard, and yeah, so just be honest with him and tell him how you're feeling. I think that'd be the big thing for both of them. And I'm sorry, going back to you coming out, and then have your dad. I think the biggest thing here, your biggest supporter is going to be your dad and your sister. I think those are your biggest support points. So use them to springboard off to explain it to your mother. And if your mother doesn't accept that, don't change. But also don't hate your mom for it either. Now, while being homophobic is wrong, this isn't an opinionated thing. It's wrong. It's fucked up to just hate someone because of what they are. Unless they're like a Ku Klux Klan member and they're super hardcore racist. Then it's kind of justified. But anyway, not relevant, not my point. But, it's wrong to just hate someone for their sexuality. If you like dating women, so be it. That's how it is. And I know some parents take the whole, we know what's best for you stuff way too far. But I think that would be the best way to get it out. And honestly, if your mother's side of the family can't accept that, well, then it's going to be harsh, but fuck them. I mean, like I said in the first episode, I was not very good with my mom's side of the family. Even my dad's side of the family, I'm not very good. I'm very introverted, so I don't really talk to people, even when I get cards. I'm getting better. I've been sending out thank you cards and calling and saying thank you, but I never really talk to anyone. So I'm kind of the black sheep on both sides because I've alienated myself from my family. While they've been there to help me and I offer to help them and everything else, it's just been really strained. And so, that's kind of an issue. Now, just because they are homophobic doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to accept you as well. Best case scenario, they say, hey, we don't agree, but, your family, and they stick it out. But the biggest thing I want to do is just get it out there and do it at a pace that you're comfortable with. If you just want to tell your dad and then go from there, work with that. If you want to keep it between your sister, go with that. But find a pace that you're comfortable with and then go along that route. Now, that I'm going to talk about that, I wanted to talk in depth about the suicide stuff. And all I can tell you is that you have a few options. One is to go to therapy for it, which I personally don't like. I did not like therapy. They were so quick to judge and throw me on medicine that it was just horrible. But everyone has a different experience. I've had some really good therapists that have really helped my family out, and it was really good. So if you can find a good therapist, they might be able to help you out if that's the route you want to go. If you don't like that option or whatever, or you just don't have the means to get a therapist, then there's a few things you can do to help combat that. For me, it's just sheer willpower. Whenever I get down or sad, I just kind of distract myself and tell myself it's just a phase, I'm fine, I'm just a little sad, I'll get over it. But that's just me getting over things. It's just how I do things. But that's not the same for everyone, and I'm not going to pretend like it is. So, number one is find a distraction. Find something that you enjoy doing to distract yourself. If you feel yourself getting down or you feel like you don't want to go on, and this goes for both of you, by the way, find something to distract yourself, whether it be a show, a movie, or a cartoon that makes you laugh, something to kind of lift your spirits, a video game, writing down good memories or happy stuff in a diary, so whenever you're feeling down, you can look back, like, oh, I remember that was so much fun, and I really had a lot of fun. That can help, writing down happy memories and stuff. Just doing stuff you love can make you really happy, and trying to avoid the things that make you feel sad. I understand that you can't get over the death of a family member and a friend. That's a big issue. And I'm not telling you to get over them. That's not what I'm trying to say. But there is a point when you do need to move on from them. And you gotta say they're gone and they're not coming back. But they were a part of your life. I don't know how they're a part of your life. I hope you have good memories of them. And I know that while they are a source of sadness for you, I hope they can also be a source of happiness. So instead of being, oh, they're gone, say, I remember this time we went to the park and a squirrel jumped in my friend's lap and she freaked out and it was so funny, You know, it's okay to miss people, but you gotta be careful of missing them too much and letting it drag you down as well. Because, sometimes it hurts to be positive, but as weird as it sounds, just sometimes just looking in the mirror and smiling and just saying, I'm gonna make it. I can do this, and just pushing through and finding things that make you happy. Hell, you know what? Even exercise can help depression. I mean, I worked out once. I say once, it was like 4 times. I'm so bad about it. I'm actually about to go start working out again because I noticed that when I worked out, even though I'm lazy as hell, working out made me feel really good. When I started taking care of myself, it boosted my confidence and I had more energy and I felt a lot better. And sometimes that could be a great way to fight depression. The number one way I would say fighting depression is find a good playlist of music, or even learn how to play music, learn how to play guitar or keyboard or, something like that. Because music is just it can alternate a mood so quickly. When you get a chance, make a playlist of music that makes you happy or makes you jump or just one that you just can't help but sing and dance in your chair. Because I've got those. My dad's caught me. I'm in here just jamming out on my head, bouncing in my chair, playing games. And I can hear him laughing in the other room because I look like a goofball. But I'll be damned if I'm not having fun. So, in closing, I'm really sorry for everything that's happened. I really hope that you are able to come out and tell them who you are. And I think that honestly, when you do get that out, whether it goes good or bad, I think just getting it off your chest will actually help you feel a lot better too. Because I know that hiding something like that can be a big, weight on your chest. So, keep me updated. I would love to hear how it goes. I hope my advice was able to help you. And we're going to move to the next question. So, alright. Text change. That's cool. Hi, I saw your first video, and some of the questions that were asked sort of have similar situations as my question, as you may have seen some of my comments in your videos. I'm not gonna put the name. So, blah blah blah, and I want to hear your opinion on the situation, even if it is a little redundant. My parents got divorced recently. My siblings and I are living with my dad. I've been having a hard time deciding how I feel because my siblings all seem to not want anything to do with my mom. I try to forgive her for some of the things she's been doing, but it's a bit hard, and it's not entirely her fault. She's acting the way she is. She really wants to be a part of our lives, but we all sort of feel like she's trying to force open the door in the relationship. How do you think I should handle this? If I need a little more info on the situation, I can see more and we'll go from there. Okay. So, this one's easy. First of all, when a parent, I just hope that no one blames themselves. I really hope that you and your siblings don't think it's their fault that your parents got a divorce. So that's, I know you didn't mention it, but I do know that's a big issue with divorces. There was one that I had myself. I always thought, my parents hated me. So, I know how hard it is for someone trying to force their way into your life. When my dad had when I had a stepmom, she started off really nice, really kind, really open, and as soon as I got married, the bitch switch flipped, and she changed everything, and she later tried to kill me, which is really odd. But yeah, so I know how it feels, because at the time, I was struggling with religion and trying to get out of it, and I didn't know anything about it, and she was hardcore religious, and hammering it down my throat, all while just now becoming a part of my family. So what I think you're doing is commendable. I think you're on the right track. I would need more information to know why your siblings don't want anything to do with your mom. I'm assuming there's some backstory there. Whether she messed up or she said something she shouldn't have or whatever. But whatever it is, it's obvious that she cares about you and she probably doesn't want to lose you. So my number one thing to do, if this was me, And I understand this takes a lot of confidence, and you're gonna have to really work on this one. Is tell your mom flat out that she needs to stop. And before anyone freaks the fuck out, I'm not saying, cut your mom off all ties, but tell her she needs to stop trying. Instead of trying, she just needs to be a part of your lives. I can tell what it means when she's trying to force herself in the relationship, and that can make you feel strained because she's trying to be there all the time, and it sounds like your siblings don't want that, and that's okay. I can understand that feeling. But I do think what you're doing is right, too. It's never a good thing to lose a parent. And I don't know what she's done. And I know you said it's a bit hard, and it's not entirely her fault. She's getting over divorce. So, as you said herself, she's not herself yet. So, like I said, my advice would be to tell her to slow down a bit. Don't focus on y'all right now. She needs to focus on herself. She needs to get herself emotionally stable, financially stable. She needs to get herself situated and set after the divorce, because I know you said it was recent. So she needs to get herself in a place where she's comfortable and she's accepted it, and she's okay, this happened, I'm okay, let's do this. She needs to get herself in a good place before she starts focusing on you, because right now it honestly sounds like she's panicking. She's so scared she's gonna lose you that she's trying way too hard to keep you happy and in her life. And as I said, I don't know the whole story, so I can't say why your siblings are avoiding her. And depending on their age, it might be hard to get them to, like her again or want her in their life. But I think this all pivots heavily on you, and I think you can do this. Just talk to your mom. Be like, hey, the divorce is rough. We're all trying to get through this. Can you please slow down a little bit? And, try to invite her out to stuff, too. Like, if she invites you out for ice cream or she constantly tries to be there, be like, just let me decide. Like, when we want to go out, we'll give you a call. Or tell her that she needs to get situated when she's feeling better, she can call you up. Or keep it simple. Call her on the phone every once in a while, like, hey, Mom, how you doing? Start simple with little stuff. Even if it's sending letters, send her a letter like, hi, Mom, I miss you. I understand things are rough right now, but, I do want you in my life still. And I want to work on that. In fact, I think that's one of the key things you want to tell her too is tell her you still want her in your life. You do. And just be honest. I mean, I know honesty is really difficult to do sometimes because it hurts. It hurts to tell people that you're not ready or you don't want them there just yet or they're doing a little too much because you're afraid to hurt their feelings, especially now. But I think if you let your mom know that you do still want her in your life and that you forgive her for whatever she's done, I don't know, but you said you try to forgive her because she's not herself right now. I think that'll do her a world of good, and it'll help you and your siblings too. Maybe try talking to your siblings too. Be like, hey, I know things are bad, but this is Mom. Without her, there's no us, and just because she's not there right now and she's just trying doesn't mean she's not your mom anymore and that you're not her kids. And you gotta remember that you're family. Even when you're separated, you're still family. And it's probably a big blow to her after all this, and it hurts to lose someone like that, especially when you're married and have kids. So I hope I've said enough. Like I said, I don't know the full story. If I knew everything she'd been doing, it could have been a bit more thorough, but I hope my general advice helps in this situation. In closing, I would have to say honesty is the best policy here. It's going to be the hardest to do, but I think if you let her know she's trying a little too hard, and you both work on a system where either you call her and talk every once in a while, and the other siblings jump on, and you try to rebuild and kindle the relationship from a smaller point and build a foundation, and then work your way back up, and just find a good balance with each other, I think it'll solve a lot of your problems. And I think it'll be good for both of you as well. And, like I said, I'm good on you for trying. Because a lot of people just up and give up, and they I don't want anything to do with it. I'm like, too hard, not going to do it. And that's really good of you to do. And I'm sure she sees that as well. So, alright, that's all 3 questions in closing. I hope all that advice helped everyone, and I just want to say thank you. And I am honored that you are willing to, come to me and ask me for my advice and my help on these questions. and these big things, because these are big issues. These are really big issues, and I'm just glad that I was able to help, and I'm glad that you trust me enough to give you advice and give you a place to talk and a place to vent and open up and, just tell people what you can't say. Because that's what I'm all about here. It's not just about giving advice. It's about giving people a voice and a way to get it out and tell someone and get that burden off your chest. So thank you everyone for keeping this series going. I'm really excited for this to get big and to help as many people as I can. And you guys are the best. I really hope that what I've said today and all the advice I've given has been helpful to you, and that it all goes smoothly. Remember, you can always email me. This doesn't mean, when I email you and say it's answered, this doesn't mean I'm cutting off ties. Like, I'm done. If you want to follow up on a question or you want to ask another question, feel free to. And if you want to do that, remember, it's caretakersghosts@yahoo.com. Just send me an email. It'll be anonymous unless you want me to say a name or something like that, or make up a name. I can do that too. But anyway, this has been dragging on for a while, so I kind of rambled a little bit there. I hope y'all don't mind. But I'm going to be headed to the grave. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope my advice was helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. Welcome to town, everyone.